that were under FDR, because when you have higher taxes at the upper end, and especially when it comes to corporations too, you will see them investing more into their people. When the people have more money, it will actually help them overall. It also reduces the people with higher means. It will reduce the amount of money that they have. So our money will not only it will not only slow inflation, but it will also reverse it or cause deflation. And that is something that I'm really looking forward to, is trying to get in that opportunity in Congress to help fight for the working people, because I want people to be able to afford a home. I want to be able to have people being able to afford groceries. I want people to be able to afford, having only one family member working, and instead of having, all the family members working like 8 jobs to get by, just to break even. I wouldn't want, that family, that 1950s kind of idea where we have someone that can be the quote unquote breadwinner while the other family member can grow and raise our family, because we have a graying population in the United States and we need to have more children. And it's just not economically feasible for many Americans to be able to raise and produce a family because it's just too cost prohibitive. So we need to focus on the working class. We need to focus on rebuilding the middle class and making sure that this country is fair, not only for the people that are running the country, but for the people that are at the bottom that are actually making sure it actually runs.
Great. Jose, I know you go ahead.
Well, it's very simple. I'm running to intervene on the entire political establishment that is known as the Democratic Party in the Bronx, which is congruent to the criminal apparatus that thinks it can decide who gets elected, when, how, and why. I ran as an independent candidate for the first time 2 years ago, and now I'm doing both, the Democratic primary and the independent ballot, win or lose the Democratic primary. And, I have an aspiration to become a perennial candidate. So Diane, I'm almost there. Maybe 3 more races or so, and I'll be there. But no, this is part of a series of interventions that I have started by confronting people in different positions of authority or power, whether that is Mike Pompeo, Kamala Harris, the editors of the New York Times, Washington Post, and LA Times, and Reuters. And so, I hear something in the background. Hopefully that'll be fixed soon. But also, deciding, hey, now's the time to escalate those interventions from just being, a person who stands up in the crowd, which have garnered millions and millions of views, to deciding I'm going to take it to a place where they cannot run and they cannot hide. And that's, of course, directly to their face and in their party where they do not want me. So, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to get on the ballot, which, our petitioning process begins in 4 days. And, well, it's going to be quite explosive.
Great. Yeah, Jose has gotten the honor of being attacked by the Jerusalem Post lately.
Congratulations.
Yeah, they're really afraid, given what happened with Zohran Mamdani in New York, and I'm sure everyone here probably followed that, where I think the turning point was the debate where they asked all the mayoral candidates, where are you going after you win the election? And everyone said, Israel, Israel. And one that almost fell over laughing said, well, after my 4th trip to Israel, I would make my 5th trip to Ukraine. They thought, oh my goodness.
Oh,
and Mamdani said, well, I would stay in New York. I mean, you're elected to, it's a city after all. It's different for federal office. What we're running for, myself in particular as president, you're dealing with the entire world, really. But if you're in the Congress, you're dealing with the world as well. And I think, I think Americans, I know we've heard this whole America first, which people are concerned about what's happening in America, as we should be. If we are elected, all of us, we are beholden to represent the people who elected us. But I also think people actually do want to do good. They want to do good things. And I was thinking about Kennedy's inaugural address, President Kennedy, when he said, ask not what your nation can do for you, but what you can do for your nation. And then he said, citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what we can do together for the freedom of mankind.
Mm.
And I think, human beings, we want that. If you're halfway conscious, your life is a little teeny sliver. I mean, the planet has been here for 4 billion years or 5 billion years, or I guess some religious groups think we've only been here 2,500 years, but whatever. We've been here for a lot longer than any of us has been alive. And the planet's going to be here a lot longer after we're here. So what's the point, right? What's the meaning of it unless you're doing something enduring? So I'll just open it up. If people have responses to things that they heard from others or particular policy, I have a couple thoughts, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think when it comes to Zoran Mandani, that is a fantastic example, because we need to stop funding Israel's genocide in Palestine. I believe because they are the only nuclear power in that region, we also should work to disarm them of nuclear weapons, because they can go around and basically just annex countries as they see fit, or annex land from people that are already live there, force them off, bulldoze them, and just raise their entire population, so they can settle there or colonize there. And that is something that we really need to fight against, because, just because those people are different, have a different belief system, doesn't mean that they don't have a right to exist, and a right to exist on land that they own. So I am trying to fight for the people, and I don't care what your creed is, what your religion is, it's about people. That's the most important thing. So that's what I believe in. And that's the thing that I condemn. I'm not condemned, but I command. I have a command and respect for Zoran Mandani, for him to speak out on the genocide in Palestine.
Well, and he did it really nicely too. And sure says, it's not about being Jewish, and he fought against anti-Semitism at the same time. We have a very big Illinois 9 is a large Jewish contingent. And obviously I'm one of the candidates to call it a genocide, which is one of the splits and probably the farthest left when it comes to, I say left, the farthest on the pro-Palestinian side. But that's because I care about my Jewish neighbors too. We shouldn't have war there. End of story. We shouldn't be killing people on either side of this. And nobody should be, harassing the Arabs in the Illinois 9 or the Jewish people in Illinois 9. And I think Mandani did a good job of making that distinction. And I think the Democrats, being, I suppose, Jose is kind of a Democrat, so 50-50. We need to get better at saying that, right? We need to get better at explaining to people that anti-Semitism has no place in our society. But that doesn't mean we can support a genocide halfway around the world, Yes.
Let me interject one thing too. The word Semite or Semitic just means people from the Levant. So that would be Palestinians. That would be Jewish people or Israeli people. It's not just Jewish people. Now the meaning has been coined to just tie to the Jewish people, but the actual etymology of the word, Semite, means just people from the Levant area. Any attack on Palestinian people is anti-Semitic in its nature. So it's not just attacking Jewish people, it's attacking people from the Middle East, the West Bank, any of it. All that genocide is anti-Semitic in nature.
I believe that this issue is really with supporting the Israeli government and AIPAC. It's really starting to build not just in the Democratic side, but also in the Republican side as well. There are Republicans in my district that do not want to see us funding Israel for wars, and I don't like seeing that my tax dollars are going to this. I call it an atrocity, but the international community has clearly called it a genocide, and I would say I believe it's a genocide as well. there's an existing law, the Leahy law, that says we should not be funding any country that's responsible for a genocide.
Right. I wanted to ask you, Rush, just then Jose can go, but since you're running for Marjorie Taylor Greene's former seat, I'm just curious, what's the dynamic there? What is people's response to this brawl, or they're calling it a divorce between her and Trump, and what do they think about her positions? Because it seems to me from an outside perspective that she has actually really fought for her people and her district. And I think she got threatened very brutally for the stand she took. It seems mostly on the Epstein files, although I suspect it was also because she actually did come out and call it a genocide. And as you may have seen, she just recently met with the mayor of Bethlehem and did a long post about the ethnic cleansing against the Christian population in Bethlehem. But what's the dynamic there? I'm just curious.
Well, me personally, I have not been able to figure it out completely, but I did speak with someone who's actually running in the same special election that worked with her in the field in the district. And he's told me the Republican feeling on it is that she's just trying to burn the party down. Of course, there was talk about how she talked with Trump about how she wanted to run for the Senate seat and was told flat out she could not win the Senate seat. So I'm under the impression that she did not want to hear that. She had bigger goals in mind. And when she was shot down by that, and that's what I've been confirmed, she's gotten very, she's burning the Republican Party down to spite them. However, for me personally, the last 3 months, what she has been saying is the truth. It's clear she's stating that the Republican Party is corrupt, just like the Republican Party says the Democratic Party is corrupt. I truly believe that both party systems are corrupted by the Epstein class or the billionaire class, and that's where I sit in regards to that. In regards to that situation, I will tell you this: I don't know what to come of this race, though, because Trump was actually in Rome, Georgia yesterday, and I was in Rome, Georgia at the same time, and he had. Of course, it was a last-minute event. It was during the week and during the working hours, but he had an abysmal turnout of people. I mean, it was
really
50 people, under 100 people showed up at his event that was at a steel manufacturer in Rome.
Wow!
So it was really, really, really low turnout. I don't think it would be. I don't think the excuse of it being during the week and being a rush would explain that the turnout was so low. I think that there's a number of people that are realizing that they might have been lied to.
That is a big deal. That's shocking. Jose, I'm sorry, because you were going to say something.
Well, no, I think it's interesting because with the line that you just said, that the Republican Party has been saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to burn down the Republican Party because she got snubbed for running for Senate. Whether or not that's true, I don't think it matters. Because another person who's been saying that, who's completely vindictive and totally like upset that Marjorie Taylor Greene had more principles than her, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Marjorie Taylor Greene famously called out AOC for her hypocritical anti-war stance. You know, the fact that she voted to fund weapons to Ukraine, you know, the fact that she endorsed Kamala.
And Israel.
Yeah, that's right. She voted to fund the Iron Dome and cried about it, you know. Right. And well, she voted no and then changed her vote to president. Now she's all for, you know, defensive weapons for Israel, as if, you know, that's a thing. But you know, think about it, though, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene gets snubbed, and her response is, you know what? I'm going to bring down the party by telling the truth, as opposed to AOC, who gets snubbed by her own party. And instead she says, you know what? I'm just going to bend over even harder. You know, right. I'm going to continue to submit to the will of the party bosses, and hopefully I'll be able to be there and I'll be the ruler someday. You see, there is a difference there. There is a sort of courageous stance there, you know, because you're also risking burning your reputation too. You know, she doesn't actually know how people are going to respond, but she's doing it because it's telling the truth. So quite frankly, I think Axios reached out to me for a comment back in October. If I would support, if elected, would I support Hakeem Jeffries for majority House Speaker if the Dems took back the House? And not only did I say, of course not, because he's funding a genocide and the war in Ukraine, I said I would vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene as Speaker of the House before I ever thought about endorsing Hakeem Jeffries for that. And I think that's another reason why they're really coming at me hard. So
yeah. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I have to say, she's very intelligent, and I think she has a good sense of where things are going. And I wouldn't put it by her that she jumped ship the way that she jumped ship too, because she sees the Trump administration is a sinking ship. Mm-hmm. People haven't woken up yet, but they are. They're going to be, because it's taking on too much water, and we're not going to be able to bail it fast enough. These people in my district are going to really suffer.
Yeah. I was actually part of that same article, the Axios article as well. And at the time, this was before Hakeem Jeffries just basically gave Israel more funding to commit genocide. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to, because my focus was on the working party. We're not working party, the working class. Foundation economics, making sure people have money to be able to afford things, getting those policies across the board. But then as I learned more and more about Hakeem Jeffries and the way he conducts himself, I changed my position, because, human life is more important than, getting funding from AIPAC or J Street or any of these pro-Israel super PACs. So, yeah.
You're allowed to do that, by the way. You're allowed to change your opinions if you think so.
Yeah.
We would hope that. I wanted to go back to something Justin said, and then also David, you keep bringing this up, which is this question of Wall Street. And I'll just say, as we discussed earlier, I worked with Lyndon LaRouche for about 32 years. He passed away in 2019. He was the leading economic forecaster on the planet. And he warned, if Nixon decoupled the dollar from the gold reserve system, that you were going to see an economic collapse and perpetual war and fascism. And what happened when we did that, it's not, and by the way, it's reserve. It's not one-to-one. It didn't restrict credit like the dollar standard, where you say you must have an equal amount of gold to the dollars, which would be very restrictive and not allow you to issue credit to develop. But it meant that you could not have speculation on currencies. So when you had fixed exchange rates, Peru could get a loan and their currency to the dollar would be the same value 10 years later and 15 years later, which meant they could plan a major development project, which might not turn a profit for 15 years or 25 years. Once you said that there's floating exchange rates, nothing is pegged to anything, then you had a situation where people like George Soros could go in and gamble against the currency of, was it Malaysia or Indonesia? And he brought down the entire currency because he was handling the Queen's offshore money. He had enough money to speculate against an entire country and destroy their economy, which is an outrage. So now we have really hyperinflation, and the money is worthless, and there's no relationship to anything in the physical real world. And what LaRouche said is, you got to bankrupt Wall Street. We should stop worshiping this. The US debt is 38 trillion. They're saying by 2030, is it by 2030? I'm not sure, 2030 or 2035 or something. It's going to be $64 trillion. 64 trillion. There's no way you can possibly pay this. And as I said, the derivatives obligations are 2.4 quadrillion. So you have to wipe out, like what FDR did in the bank. You're just going to have to go through the books of these banks. And the stuff that's garbage, like apparently you can now place bets on how long Caroline Leavitt is going to speak at the introduction of a press conference, and that's on the market. So forget it. We have the taxpayer should not be on the hook to bail out someone's gambling habit. Just forget it. Wipe it out. separate the banks with the Glass-Steagall. We got to reinstate the
Yep.
Glass-Steagall Act, put that
Yep.
firewall between savings and loan and commercial. We need to nationalize the Federal Reserve. Why have a bunch of perverts meeting in the Bohemian Grove who don't have to report to anybody about what they're doing, deciding, the value of currency, interest rates? I think we need a national bank, as Hamilton understood. And we have to be able to direct credit to things that actually make people more productive. And Justin, what you were saying about the 4-day work week, yes, a lot of people are terrified of AI. I think in the wrong hands, AI can be very terrifying, but it's going to happen. So it'll be a good thing the more that robots and replace physical human labor. More teachers, more engineers, and it means you can do the work you were doing in 40 hours. Maybe you can do it in 30 hours. Maybe you can do it in 20 hours and have more time to become a violinist or learn 17 languages or whatever.
Run for president.
Diane?
No, I mean,
Diane,
I just want to jump in for a second. So yes, it wasn't that long ago that we were all farmers, right? AI, the problem with AI is the problem that we worship work. Is that we say that work is who you are, and because the government doesn't, who benefits from this AI is what matters, right? It is going to happen, but if it just becomes another way for the billionaires to get richer and the rest of us suffer, then it's going to be a horrible thing. But if we can get it to work for us so that more people don't have to do jobs that are dangerous, more people don't have to do jobs that they don't want to do, that there's not a lot of use for. And we can then, it's like, I used to tell this to people, if you do universal basic income, and they're like, well, people just play video games in their basement. I said, would you? Well, no, I wouldn't. I said, you'd just do what you'd want to do. You'd go garden, you'd go be in community plays, you'd go volunteer at the schools, you'd go do your thing, right? So I would push back a little bit and say that I think we've already seen the productivity where we can get a 4-day work week. Like I think that's already baked into the system. We can do this. It makes more money for the businesses. It makes more money for the country, and it gives people a day off. My degree is in environmental and occupational health. I'm a certified industrial hygienist. I can tell you that people need time off to recharge, and then they'll be more productive.
Rob, go ahead.
I tell people when they ask me this question in regards to AI, I tell people AI, in my opinion right now, is the most important issue of all. I don't hear the urgency in you guys' voices, in your voices, but I'm listening to experts in the field, and this is coming for everyone's jobs. Mm-hmm. And with robotics tied to it, it's not going to just be the white collar jobs. It's going to be the blue collar jobs eventually. We're talking time frame of 2 to 5 years. It's going to be a massive disruption. Even if it doesn't take all the jobs, people are going to be losing so many jobs so rapidly. How are we going to bridge these people to be able to make money in that with that transfer over? The other thing about it, there's an environmental issue with the AI. These data farms are energy hungry, water hungry facilities that are going to lead to real problems with the electrical grid, because we're already have an antiquated electrical grid. And there was actually a warning less than a month ago in one of the grids up in the Northeast in Virginia, where they have the most data centers that they were bracing for blackouts. It didn't happen, but they had all the data centers and all the large industrial complexes up there switch over to their backup power supplies because the energy demand was at record highs and they couldn't support the load. And if we get into a cascading event, we could have a large scale blackout. If that happens during really cold times or really during a heat wave, we can talk about a lot of deaths that can happen, even if it's just something that lasts a few weeks.
Right.
I personally, I'm calling for and telling my constituents that we need to have a pause with the data farms, and we have to have a pause in regards to if our leadership is saying that AI is critical for national security, why is it in the hands of billionaires? Mm-hmm. Why are we not taking over the most important advanced AI systems and nationalizing those if it's a matter of national security.
Right.
We're leaving it. We're letting these billionaires do whatever they want, and the expert, some of the experts are saying, on the low end, there's a 20% chance of extinction of the human race. That's playing Russian roulette. I don't want to play Russian roulette with the human race. I don't care about the advancements. We have AI right now is fantastic, but if they try to achieve AGI, artificial general intelligence, we don't know what could happen. They could lose complete control of it.
Well, there's also, I mean, and this is one of the big problems. And actually, I was just reading an old paper by LaRouche, who was at war with Norbert Wiener and cybernetics. And the question was the human mind, creativity. And a good friend of mine is Jacques Cheminade, who ran for president of France a couple of times, spoke about 3 different occasions when individuals, either Soviet or Russian or American, prevented the world from going into nuclear war in an accident because they were getting signals that the other side had launched a missile. If you had a computer making the determination whether you should launch, the computer would have said yes. But because they were human and capable of, you could say, intuition, right, outside of the box, they said, well, wait a minute. All of the, instruments are saying that they've launched, but that really doesn't make sense. I'm not willing to do this. Or they had a conscience. I'm not willing to wipe out people who would never have participated in the Epstein class or observing the Epstein class and saying nothing. They had a conscience about what would happen to the human race. And that's very true. You cannot, there are certain functions that you cannot replace with a computer, but I'm afraid many people don't believe that. And you should try hearing AI. I was at a debate in New York City, and there was a comedian who came on and asked the audience to guess which jokes were designed by AI and which from the comedian. And you could tell, you could tell, everyone in the audience could tell.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like with the AI, I mean, businesses, the people with a lot of resources are looking a way to make as much money as possible and save as much money as possible so they don't expend as much. And the water issue and the energy issue is not really a factor that they consider because they look at their bottom lines. And unfortunately, that's the way things are. And I mean, with AI, there's one section that says that this is a speculative bubble that's going to eventually pop and is going to be similar to the AI internet bubble back in the 90s, or basically the housing bubble, and it's going to cause a lot of people to lose their jobs regardless. But another thing is that looking at AI, we are kind of looking at, you have to look at it the way it functions now as the same way as the first automobiles, kind of, which were very, gasoline intensive, oil intensive, and how our cars evolved from them. And that one way or another, people trying to make as much money as possible are going to try to innovate and make as great as possible. And they're going to eventually cost us a lot of jobs. And we're going to be in a position where we're going to have to decide on policies to employ those other people that lose their jobs. We can't really have a Blade Runner kind of thing where people, there's the ultra wealthy in high-rise towers, and basically everyone else that's not ultra wealthy is basically treated like cockroaches.
Right. Jose.
Sorry.
Thoughts on this?
Well, I think that when it comes to advancements in technology, period, there's always been a period of people saying this is going to destroy the economy, or this is going to kill the jobs, and everything will be automated and there'll be less jobs and with a growing population. I look at it the other way. I actually see that there may be a potential for growth in other areas that have been long neglected. For example, let's take a look here in New York City. The wealth disparity that exists here, and the reason you have such high rent, is because you have two types of jobs. You're either working something that makes you six figures and above, like being a lawyer, doctor, or you work at some software finance, right? Right. So you have that, or you either work a minimum wage job. Nowadays in New York, the real blue collar work again is in healthcare. That is where the middle class, that is where the people who don't make so little, but don't make so much either, that's where they are. And they are overworked and they are stressed. I think the way to look at this is, first of all, to welcome some of the advancements that can actually make people's lives easier and more productive. And you have to dissuade or you'll abolish it using it for death and destruction. We're seeing a lot of advancements in artificial intelligence with these like "Where's Daddy" programs that Israel is using to kill, the males in their households, and they wait till they get home, and then they just, that's how they're tracking a lot of the people, right? I mean, obviously with any new technology, it really depends on who's holding it. Now, I think overall, if we can actually get productivity where AI is assisting people, I think that's a good thing. But quite frankly, I'm okay with it wiping out a lot of these coding jobs because, well, it wasn't providing anything productive to the actual economy. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of the job markets and a lot of the employment rate right now is you're, either working at some job where you're a code monkey basically, or a software engineer, and you're making, decent figure at Meta or something, or, you're a DoorDash driver or an Uber Eats driver. There's this extreme wealth disparity that exists here in New York. I'm saying, okay, well, if AI can just do the stuff that these six-figure people are doing, well, then what else could they be doing? I think we can now focus our energy and our pursuit into building high-speed rail for the country and actually exploring space, doing things that are productive, or advancing the field of art, classical art, really delving into that. That is something that has been long neglected and destroyed. Quite frankly, we can have a renaissance in cultural pursuits again if people's lives are more productive. That is something AI will never be able to actually achieve in a real, original, profound piece of artwork. The best it can do is emulate and copy, but it can never produce originality. So I hope that made sense.
It did. I think the energy in water is a big concern. I will say, I know in New York, they were touting this great chip plant that was supposed to be built near Syracuse. That's after shutting down the Indian Point nuclear power plant early, which was generating 25% of the electricity for New York City. Now Hochul is talking about reopening it, but for data set, not for the things that people actually need. And in Syracuse, what I was hearing from people there when I was at the state fair is they said, well, for this plant, you need a dedicated water line. There's plenty of water here, but they're not building the water line. You need a hospital. They're saying we're going to have 25,000 new workers at this plant. We don't have hospital beds for the number of people here now. Where's the plan for the hospital? And that's this. I think this comes out of an economy that has not been productive for a very long time. So people don't have a clue, right? We had the 60s, the post-industrial economy. What does that mean? Nobody produces. You sit there like a couch potato. Now you order from Amazon. You don't have to worry about how does it get there, who makes it. It shows up on your doorstep. So you don't consider the fact that many bridges, I was told by some 18-wheeler drivers on a conference call, that they often drive 300 miles out of their way because the bridges are going to collapse from the weight of their truck. We know there are bridges across the Mississippi that if they collapse, the country's going to shut down. And somehow nobody seems really concerned about that. So I think somehow we got to absolutely, this question of production, there is a science to things. It's not arbitrary. It's not magic. And yes, because we can make enormous strides using AI, but we need an overall perspective of actual growth of population, of energy consumption, and then thought on how you get there. I think that the United States should have 1 billion people as soon as we can. But
Well, as long as we get a lot of it from the people that won't have places to live on the planet as we continue to destroy it, then I can get behind that. I think going back to what I was saying, it just depends on who benefits, right? Are we letting the population benefit, or are we allowing a group of elites benefit?
I agree.
That's with every tool,
Yep.
We should abolish Peter Thiel to the moon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we just need to look at a way that, this technology, any technology, AI, anything that comes forward or whatever comes after AI, being able to use it in a way that can benefit our society as a whole and help us, become better people. And as been attributed earlier, we can explore space and we can expand and we can test new theories and we can basically potentially go beyond our solar system at some point. So
I hope we do. The sun is going to expand and contract and we'll all disappear. And the thing that drives me crazy, like with nuclear war, is if we lost Beethoven. I think that would just be the most horrible thing if the human race exterminated itself and people didn't get to know Beethoven. People may have other things, but the idea that we have discovered everything there is to know about the universe is a rather arrogant and depressing position.
I have to say this administration has just struck my heart so deeply with all the turning back, wanting to go back in time instead of going towards the future. And it's just economically, we are just being left in the dust by China in regards to technology. I have a big push. I've been doing research and looking into fusion technology, and we're pretty close. I mean, it sounds like we're going to have a fusion reactor within 2 to 5 years. And I'm saying let's go for the future, not look at the past of oil and all this. Fusion is so clean. I want the first fusion reactor in Georgia in my district. And then it's a whole other industry. Then you have all the parts suppliers and everything that's going to complement it. I don't want my district to be relying on poultry plants and carpet manufacturing.
If we get fusion figured out, it's a game changer for the species.
Right. So why are we doing it on a federal level?
Why don't we quadruple the funding towards it? No, agreed.
Right. And not make it private.
Nothing against the space travel and all that stuff, but every environmental problem we have can be solved with energy. All of our problems are energy. You talked about the economy and currency. It's energy. All of it's energy. Human beings are energy. That's all it is. So if we can get free or marginally zero cost more energy without any environmental impact, we're talking about the fall of capitalism. You're talking about how are we going to reorganize our society now, because that system won't work. There won't be scarcity anymore.
Well, what they're talking about with AI and everything, if they're right or they're wrong, we're looking at massive job cuts in both directions. So we have to plan for massive job losses. We have to start doing that now. We can't wait to react. So universal basic income, whatever it is, bridge programs, getting, I look at it and go, if they ask me and they say, what would you do? Well, we have a huge need for housing. So we need to have a job corps. We need to have hire people in the federal government, hundreds of thousands of people to build the housing that we need and the community infrastructure that we need around the country. The government's going to have to step up because there's going to be too many unemployed.
I think Jose was hitting it pretty well on it in the idea that, look, we don't have as many cobblers as we used to. I told you that we used to all be farmers. You're right in the sense that the transition, if you're my age and they get my age done and I have to go do something new that I have never heard of before, that's going to be tricky, right? Yeah. Jobs won't go away, but it's going to be very painful for a lot of people in the transition. And that's where government can come in with programs, and not just let's retrain somebody. Because when the .com thing happened, right, and all the people are losing their jobs in the Rust Belt, and like, well, just become a programmer. That's not how that works. So we need to learn from that, do better. But that doesn't mean that we should not move forward. It's just we need to move forward smartly. Unfortunately, to your point, Rush, this administration doesn't seem to do anything intelligently, so we cannot rely on them going forward with AI in an intelligent way.
Yeah.
So I have my friend who I've been putting some of their posts up here. Here we go. This is just Beethoven's been gone quite a while. Better. They're not enthusiastic about space colonization, but I absolutely agree with growth, and I'm very excited that everyone. David, are you with us on fusion? We got to have fusion. We got to get to fusion. I think this could be.
Gotta be public owned, though.
Yes, we need absolutely, like FDR. You regulate. Life necessities have to be regulated.
More than that, more than FDR. We need to share it with the world if we get it right. Like everybody, this is for humanity.
Absolutely.
And then we need to start thinking about what we're going to do next. Because there'll be a lot to figure out. There'll be lots of work to do if we figure out fusion. Because
terraform Earth back into Earth.
Auto factories. There's all sorts of fun things that we can start to get done.
I like that idea better than Mars.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to work on Earth to get to be able to do Mars.
You can thank Neil deGrasse Tyson for that one, because I saw that one. I was like, that's a good thing. Terraform. If we have the power to terraform on another planet, we have the power to terraform Earth back into Earth. So that really stuck.
I like that. That was great.
China question. They're doing so much to reclaim the deserts, right? I mean, that's better than other kinds of things. But I'm very excited about that. And Glass-Steagall, everyone here is for reinstating Glass-Steagall, I hope.
Yeah.
Well, I like
too big to fail is too big to exist.
I like the new Glass-Steagall bill, because I think they did approach it. They added some pieces for the way it's working now. What?
Is there one now? Is there one now?
No, the 2017 that bill.
Yes.
So going back to the 1930s bill, I think we take the 2017 one and we move it forward.
That's fine. It was still very short. I think it was only about 16 pages or something. Not like Dodd-Frank. Do you guys remember they said, well, we'll write the bill, but vote for it first. It was, 20,000 pages or something. So I think we're sort of running short on time. I have to say this has been most enjoyable. And I think we have to take the approach, I know Jose does and I do, that part of the purpose of our campaign is not promising what we're going to do after we get elected.
Not me. Don't speak for me. I'm going to get it all done. I'm just going to.
There you go.
Do it now. The point is,
diem.
we need to do it now. We can't wait. People are suffering. If this Congress doesn't stop a war with Iran, I just think it's unspeakable that we could not stop a war with Iran. That is beyond it. The idea that people would say, well, Epstein, I don't know, there were a zillion really famous people in those files. Every single one of them should be investigated. And the idea of saying this is acceptable, it is not. So the point, I will speak for myself. The reason I am running now is we have to save the people, the nation, and the world. And we need to and I would be thrilled if Donald Trump were smart enough to pick up on my policies. It doesn't look like that's the case, but if it happened, great. And we got to build a movement to do this. And that's why I'm really excited about the fusion. Everyone's response on that, and Glass-Steagall, I think that's very solid. It's very hopeful.
Yeah.
So closing thoughts, we'll just do a quick, why don't we go? Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to go quick because Jose hardly got to talk and I want to hear him some. But no, I think we have an immediate needs and then we have long-term needs, and we have to be able to do both. We need to pass the PRO Act. We need to get labor back involved to rein in the oligarchy, but we also need to look towards the future. And don't be scared of the future. We just have to manage it better. because it's coming one way or another. And so I just think we need to start to elect people that more resemble our constituencies, so that we have people that are actually representative of the people that are in the House of Representatives.
Great. Rob, Rush.
Well, the only thing that we didn't really talk about enough, and it's a huge issue down by me before closing, is the cost of living, and people are suffering really bad, and I hate that we're all told that it's just inflation when it's not. It's because we have so little competition in so many of these industries, and they're controlling the markets. And we need to break them up like we used to, which I can't. Can anyone recollect the last time the Federal Trade Commission broke up a company?
Ma Bell.
And now they're bigger than countries. So we're doing something wrong. I'm a small business owner, medium business owners. We're all struggling. These big fat cats, they write the laws. They're in control. It has to stop, because we're all losing because of it.
Yeah, I agree. David.
Yeah. I decided to run because I want to help as many people as I could. I am watching like Superman, the newest one, and basically his idea of, being treated or being, living up to being a good man. I want to be in a position where I can help as many people as I could. And that's what I considered the measure of success. A measure of success of any society I believe in, I hold this to be truthful, is not how people live at the top, because that's easy. If you have a lot of money and stuff like that, it's easy for you. The quality of life, the measure of a country, measure of success comes from those at the bottom. That's where the true success is measured. And whether or not a country is fair or just depends on the quality of life of those at the bottom that make sure that our country runs. And they're the people that need the most help.
Yep. Okay, Jose.
Well, I appreciate the fact that Justin wanted to hear from me more, but believe me, it's a privilege to be able to talk to other candidates who don't completely agree on everything, which I think is good. It's great. I think that would be a problem if we all agreed. I think there's a term for that. It's called fascism. If we all just thought, and things would be a lot easier if we all thought the same thing and wanted the same thing, but that's not how any of this works. And so to be here with like-minded folks who just want a better future for the country is a great privilege. And to be able to listen to all of you is honestly a blessing and a joy. And so I want to thank you for just even letting me be on here to be able to listen to what people have to say. And I hope that we can emulate this in the Congress and the White House at some point. Maybe Diane will be vetoing bills that we pass or be signing off what we pass. So we will see.
Well, with this group, probably I wouldn't be vetoing the most important things that you would do. But I'm really glad we did this. I look forward to having more discussions. Jose and I are going to be looking for other candidates if you have people you want to pass our way. And then I'd like to have everyone here back on again.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
The people who are listening, who are watching, follow everyone. Justin, Rob, David, Jose, myself, get on our social media, get the word out. None of us is going to be covered by the disgusting mainstream press. We also didn't talk a lot about the whole question of ballot access, but you heard a little from David about why he left the Democratic Party. Justin not being, able to go to debates unless you have $2 million to put into the campaign. I mean, it's outrageous. And most Americans don't realize that you are disenfranchised before you even get to vote, because reasonable, good people like each of us who had something other that we were doing in our life besides running for office, who would actually represent our districts, our nation, our people, you are not allowed to hear from. So all of those of you out there, we're a republic. You're supposed to be active. You're responsible. You're a citizen. Help us get the word out. And thank everyone for listening and joining this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jose, I wanted to tell you,